Humanity is running out of oil fast. The global population collectively consumes 102 million barrels of oil every single day, and with 1.77 trillion barrels left that are economically practical to extract, we will run out of oil within 50 years. That's pretty concerning, given that means that people in Gen Z very well may see the complete depletion of oil reserves within their lifetime, being in their 70s and 80s when it'll happen. The reason we are running out is simple. We are using it so fast. Humans have been using oil on an industrial scale since the 1800s, but modern day industrialization and automobiles have led to a demand for oil that has become the greatest in recorded history. We are using it so much now that experts are saying we have nearly hit peak oil production, which will inevitably cause oil production to decrease in the future. This is because, so far, we have mainly been extracting the easiest and cheapest oil to access and refine. We will eventually have to start targeting lower quality, harder to reach oil that is less economically viable to produce and takes much longer to turn into useful products. So even when we still have oil left, it will be so expensive that it'll induce an affordability crisis that will most likely keep the average person from having any realistic means of getting access to it. The other aspect is that there is simply a set amount of oil, and we are using it way faster than the replacement rate. The natural process that creates oil takes millions of years under special conditions, and given that we are burning through all the oil we got in less than 500 years, paints a clear picture at how little we really have. If you think this isn't a big deal, just remember that the vast majority of every modern economy is completely reliant on oil-based energy. Scarce and expensive oil will cause most aspects of the economy to become prohibitively expensive, which means essential goods and services will either become extremely expensive to obtain or they will simply stop existing at all. Life is easy until it costs $1,000 a month to keep your lights on and $500 to get an oil change. But that's assuming you can afford to spend hundreds of dollars for a full tank of gas to get you anywhere in the first place. And indeed, cars are one of the biggest issues here. Many modern citizens live in the suburbs, which have been largely designed with cars in mind. If nobody can afford to use cars anymore, cities will be forced to completely overhaul the layout and infrastructure of these spacious areas, mainly to urbanize residential areas into more high-density living arrangements. This means no more European sunbathing in the backyard, guys. Think downtown, but everywhere. Besides sharing a wall with your neighbor, a more critical concern of oil scarcity is that of food production. Petroleum products have completely revolutionized the agricultural industry and has led to an abundance of cheap and high-quality food across developed nations. Oil-based products are used in every facet of this industry. Fertilizer uses oil-derived hydrogen. Pesticides also heavily use oil products. Not to mention that all the farming equipment runs off gas, and so do the transportation vehicles that take this food from farms to grocery stores. For obvious reasons, more expensive oil will cause every one of these aspects to become dramatically more expensive. And you think avocado toast is expensive now. But a less obvious yet equally serious cost concern is about the amount of farmland that will actually be used to grow food. A scarcity in oil will increase the demand for biofuels, which use resources that are grown just like our food. If more biofuel is required to be produced, farmers are going to have to allocate more of their land and capital towards growing biofuel products, instead of actual food we need to eat. As your government and economics teacher would tell you, a less supply with an inelastic demand causes the price of all food to go up. This oil crisis is coming whether we like it or not, which is part of the reason why there has been such a massive push towards alternative energy sources from governments. They know better than anyone else that if this goes untreated, people will die. Given this existential crisis, we have been desperately searching for the best alternatives to turn to once the oil runs dry. Hydrogen fuel seems to possibly be the next best option to fit our current economy, and we're already seeing technology for this start to get pushed in the form of hydrogen generators, and even in Toyota's lineup with their flagship hydrogen vehicles. I myself here in LA have already started to see fully dedicated hydrogen fill-up stations for trucks that already run off it. A similar potential option is methane gas. This is why some people are able to light their farts on fire, as our gas contains ignitable methane. I propose that in the event of a full-scale oil crisis, we round up all the McDonald's rewards members with the most points into power plants to harvest their gas, provided we give them as much greasy food as they ask for. Other alternatives we are all aware of is that of solar panels and wind turbines, which both harness the energy provided by the sun. The sun is by far the greatest and most inexhaustible source of energy in the entire solar system. The amount of energy that the sun deposits on the surface of the Earth in a single hour is enough to power all of humanity's energy demand for an entire year. The issue with solar energy is that it's difficult to contain once it's produced. It has to be used very quickly, or else the laws of entropy will drain it to nothing. There is a lot of work being done to develop facilities to hold this power for extended periods of time, but it's a process that still has a long way to come. Not just that, but I believe wind turbines are creating a generational blood debt with birds that will come back to haunt us later in the rise of the planet of the pigeons. All of these sources seem to have viability in one way or another, but none of them come close to the output of energy we'd achieve if we successfully roll out nuclear energy. Nuclear fission is when we fire a neutron into an unstable uranium-235 atom. This briefly turns the original atom into uranium-236, which is so unstable it splits into pieces. The energy comes from spare mass that escapes the process and turns into pure kinetic energy, which is what we keep for ourselves. It's a fascinating way to generate electricity. A kilogram of uranium-235 is able to produce as much as 3 million times more energy than a kilogram of oil, and it produces zero carbon. It does, however, create nuclear waste that needs to be buried far from civilization for tens of thousands of years before it becomes safe to even exist around. But public fears of such waste, plus additional fears of meltdowns like Chernobyl and Fukushima, forced many governments to shut down almost all of their nuclear plants. However, recent times have led to many countries turning these facilities back on out of a new fear of energy insecurity in the face of events such as the Ukraine war and the invasion of Iran. But even if we quadruple the amount of nuclear power plants, we can only reasonably cover about 30% of the global energy demand with it. I know the future seems uncertain, and there are many routes we can go down to ensure we still have the energy we need when oil is depleted. But there isn't going to be one clear answer to the next new fuel that'll power everything. The future economies of the world will most likely use a mix of all of these alternative sources to generate power. Hydrogen and methane are great liquid fuels, and therefore ideal for large vehicles like ships and planes. Nuclear is a great baseline energy that will cover the 24/7 demands of factories and data centers. And then solar energy combined with batteries may be the best source to cover the residential electricity spikes that inelastic baseline power can't quite cover. Or it'll be completely different, like maybe my genius fart facility hypothesis. We will still have some oil in the future, but it will likely become an expensive niche form of energy that is used sparingly. Nevertheless, humans are great at adapting, and it's the ability to do so that brought us so far in the first place. So I'd have a bit of hope instead of dwelling in doom. This was Loreium, and that's all I got for you. So have a lovely day, and take care.